As with most games, when Brawlhalla first released its rank system, it was fun and exciting, and releasing with 6 different ranks to climb through, people had their eyes set on becoming the first ever player to reach the top rank, and with that came lots of competition and hard-fought battles, eventually ending with one person claiming the crown, that being a player named Misfit, but we'll gloss over that because he was soon to be exposed for boosting, but that's completely besides the point. After the hype died down from the launch of Ranked, everyone found themselves placed accordingly. Most pros and semi-pros at the time were all in Diamond, the up-and-coming players were in High Platinum, and everyone else fell into the remaining 4 ranks. It was working exactly as intended, but as time went on and the overall skill was rising, a pretty big problem started to emerge. See, the problem with the overall skill rising is that the highest rank wasn't reserved for just pros anymore. Some extremely talented casual players were finding their way into the top ranks, which at face value doesn't seem like a problem at all because they earned it legitimately, which is very valid, but the skill gap between the casuals and the pros was still extreme, and in turn created a sub-tier in the ranked system. The best of the best resided in the 2300 to 2500 elo range, while the lower tier diamonds stayed at the 2000 to 2200 elo range, which if kept separated isn't a problem in the slightest, but that's exactly where the problem became evident. They weren't separated at all. In its most simple form, Brawlhalla's rank system puts you in a queue looking for 2 different things, one being another player in the same tier as you, and the second is calculating who in that tier has similar elo to your own, which usually works great in the more populated ranks, but since Diamond is far less popular, the sample size of players close to your elo is very low, especially if you aren't playing at peak hours, which resulted in top tier Diamonds constantly getting matched up against the lower tier Diamonds, making the ranked experience extremely uncompetitive. And pros were starting to realize this, as ranked was becoming less and less optimal for practice. So they took it into their own hands to launch a program known as Rank S. It was basically a player hub dedicated to the top pros in both NA and EU, where they would set up private lobbies to spar each other and then record the matches over a certain amount of time, resulting in the player with the best record to receive a cash prize for that season of Rank S. At the start, it was really good practice for pros and had a good incentive behind it, but since the spots were so exclusive, the player count was extremely small, which left the server dead throughout the majority of its lifespan, which was ultimately the downfall of Rank S altogether, leaving everyone back at square one. This is the point where it really seemed like nothing could be done. Regardless of anything, we have to realize that there will always be unfair matchups in any rank, and it's just amplified to the extreme in the top ranks. To put things into perspective, most highly competitive games don't rely on online game modes for practice. Instead, they have private scrims and tournaments to practice, and inevitably this is what Brawlhalla players had to do. Spar with one another and attend as many tournaments as possible if they really wanted to improve, which is exactly where the game was heading, and in my opinion it was for the better, as ranked wasn't being treated as a top tier practice tool anymore, but instead a slightly more competitive experimental queue. But that was until September 6, 2022, when Brawlhalla would release a brand new rank. Valhallan was Brawlhalla's newest rank right above Diamond and introduced some never seen before parameters, as the rank wasn't elo based but instead leaderboard based. The way you earned Valhallan was being in the top 150 players in your respective region, while also having over 100 ranked wins. As you can imagine, this new rank was huge news and started another massive race to be the first Valhallan, but was also what looked like a great way to break apart the sub-tiers in Diamond. But as with most things, when the hype died down and the vast majority of people had gotten Valhallan, it didn't seem to fix any of these problems. You see, the main issue with having so many parameters for a rank is that it feels a lot more like a chore than a grind. Imagine you reach the top 150 players and you aren't able to get the rank because you don't have enough wins. It would be extremely annoying. Plus the fact that once you're in Valhallan, you were still facing off against the same Diamond players as before, because it simply wouldn't be feasible to have a Valhallan only queue, as the wait time would be far too long. So although Valhallan seemed like something that could fix some of rank's biggest issues, it ended up being a more glorified sub-tier in Diamond. But this begs the question, could the higher ranks ever be improved? And the simple answer is no. What would be needed to make the higher ranks as competitive as possible is simply not feasible, because if they were only to match high Diamonds or Valhallans with each other, then people would complain about the insanely long queue times. But simply because they don't do this, people complain about unfair matchmaking, which creates a cycle of constant hate no matter what BMG does, and in all honesty, I think we have to realize that they picked the lesser of the two evils. But one thing that people need to realize is once they've reached a level where ranked isn't helping them improve, they need to reach out and find people and communities with their common interests to improve. And there are many communities out there that strive off exactly that. And for those that are interested, a few great examples are the So Icy Boys Discord, the Hall of Greatsword, and even Brawlhalla's official Discord server, which I'll make sure to link in the description for you guys. And at the end of the day, the only way to fix these problems is to get people talking about the external tools they can use, instead of complaining about something that is honestly unfixable. The reality is, we have an amazing rank system all the way from tin to the majority of diamond. It is incredibly competitive and rewarding to rank up, and honestly the fact that we even have a ranked system is a blessing itself. On top of the incredible netcode is far more than a lot of other extremely popular fighting games, which is something I don't think we should ever take for granted.